Picture this. A history teacher in Manchester sits down at her kitchen table with a cup of tea to mark 28 essays from her Year 9 class.
Right.
The topic is the causes of the First World War. And she has set this exact same assignment, or, something very similar, for 15 years.
Yeah, it is an absolute staple of the curriculum.
Exactly. But this weekend, something is different. 26 of those essays are absolutely flawless.
Wow.
Yeah, perfect structure, nuanced arguments, university-level insight. And instead of feeling the joy of a job well done, she just feels this profound, sinking sense of grief. Welcome to Between the Covers and Beyond, a podcast by Rondanini Publishing.
And that feeling of grief is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are doing a deep dive into the source material of a book that, it completely flips the script on how we handle artificial intelligence.
It really does. It's called The AI Classroom Survival Guide by Ava Silica.
And just a quick note for you listening, it is out worldwide on the 15th of July, and you can pre-order it right now at rondanini.com in both ebook and paperback formats.
Now, normally, discussions about AI in the classroom, they just go straight to doom and gloom, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. The narrative is always about a generation of kids who simply won't be able to think for themselves.
Right. But Silica's book is different. It takes that Manchester teacher's grief, that visceral realization that an essay no longer works as a window into a young mind, and it essentially asks, what do we do next?
Because our mission today isn't to mourn the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
I mean, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, it really has.
It's to explore how this technology hasn't destroyed education, but rather forced a much-needed evolution.
So true.
We're going to break down why the knee-jerk reaction of trying to detect AI is a catastrophic trap, and then look at how we can make human learning visible again.
And crucially, how we transition these tools from illicit cheat sheets into the most powerful learning partners ever created.
Right. So if we want to understand the solutions, we really need to sit with that initial grief for a moment.
Yeah, because that teacher was upset that a fundamental equation in her professional life had just shattered in half.
The proxy. For hundreds of years, education has run on a very simple, very comfortable assumption. Work visible equals learning visible.
Which makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. Since we cannot physically crack open a student's skull and watch comprehension form in real time, we had to accept a proxy, the essay, the lab report, the maths worksheet.
Right.
Historically, writing was the ultimate bottleneck of thought. You simply could not produce a high-level piece of work without doing the hard, messy cognitive labor to get there.
It makes me think of running a marathon. Like, for decades, if someone crossed a finish line wearing trainers just caked in mud and sweat, we safely assumed they ran the race.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The muddy trainers were the proxy for the effort, right? But AI just set up a shop right before the finish line selling perfectly muddied trainers for free.
Yes, exactly.
Anyone can grab a pair and just stroll across the line.
That is spot on. The proxy has completely decoupled from the actual learning.
Mm-hmm.
A student can hand in a flawless analysis of trench warfare, having understood absolutely none of it.
Nothing at all.
Conversely, a student might hand in a really rough, poorly spelled essay, but they genuinely grappled with the historical concepts for 3 hours. The product on the page just no longer tells us anything reliable about the process in the mind.
And you see the panic this causes everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
The immediate reaction from schools is to act like bouncers at a nightclub.
Oh, completely.
They try to ban it,
Yeah.
which Silica rightly points out is a mere wish, considering the tools free on the smartphone in literally every teenager's pocket. Or they throw money at detection software.
Which is a whole other issue.
Right. Now, when I was reading through the notes you pulled on this, my instinct was to push back a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, even if a detector isn't 100% perfect, shouldn't a school try to establish some sort of deterrent? It feels like we ought to at least try and catch the cheats, you know?
It feels like common sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Silica makes a compelling, highly technical argument for why it is a fundamental dead end.
Okay, unpack that for us.
To understand why, you have to look at how these detectors actually work. They are not identifying a hidden watermark or a line of code. They are measuring probabilities.
Right, because AI is basically a predictive text engine.
Exactly. And AI is essentially a highly sophisticated text predictor. It always chooses the most mathematically likely next word. So a detector scans an essay and measures perplexity and burstiness.
Perplexity and burstiness.
Yes, it's basically asking, is this writing highly predictable and uniform?
But hang on, human beings can write predictably too, especially in a school setting where we've literally spent years drilling them to write in standard formulaic paragraphs, point, evidence, explanation.
You hit the nail on the head. Because the machines were trained on human writing to sound exactly like us, the lines are totally converging.
So they just blur together.
Yes. So these detectors end up making two distinct, devastating types of errors: false positives and false negatives.
The false positive story in the book is infuriating, by the way.
Oh, it really is.
A deputy headmaster spends £400 of his already stretched budget on a shiny new AI detector subscription. He announces it in morning assembly, thinking he's solved the cheating epidemic.
Classic administrative move.
Right. A fortnight later, he has a furious parent sitting in his office waving a printout. The software had flagged a student's essay with a 94% AI-generated score.
And this wasn't a student trying to game the system, was it?
Not at all. She was the sort of highly anxious, diligent student who rewrites her drafts 6 times. She wrote every single syllable herself.
But she was flagged because she wrote plainly and clearly. She followed the exact rules we taught her.
Exact.
And that is where the data gets genuinely alarming. Detectors disproportionately flag non-native English speakers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If English is your second language, your vocabulary choices are often safer and more predictable, which the software then interprets as low-perplexity machine text.
That is terribly unfair.
It gets worse. They also flag neurodivergent students who might use more rigid or structured phrasing. You end up creating a system where an innocent teenager is accused of academic dishonesty, and they have absolutely no way to prove their innocence.
Because how do you prove you didn't use a tool that leaves no trace?
You can't. You cannot mathematically prove you didn't use a chatbot.
It completely detonates the trust between the teacher and the student. And the worst part is the actual cheats sail right through. The false negatives.
Yes, the false negatives are rampant.
A student who really wants to cheat just takes the AI output, runs it through a paraphrasing tool, or simply types in the prompt, "Write this essay in the voice of a slightly tired 15-year-old from Manchester."
And the software waves it right through as human. The innocent are punished, and the calculating are rewarded.
It's a total mess.
We have to look at the historical parallel here to understand the way out. In the 1980s, the affordable pocket calculator arrived in classrooms.
Oh, the great calculator panic.
Exactly. Math teachers were terrified. They genuinely believed the subject of mathematics was finished. Some schools instituted blanket bans.
Which obviously didn't work.
No, those bans crumbled because the real world had already adopted the tool. Eventually, education adapted. We decided which mechanical computations the calculator could handle, and we shifted the assessment up the cognitive ladder.
Right, we started testing reasoning, logic, and complex modeling.
Math didn't die. It evolved. AI is forcing history, geography, and English to undergo that exact same evolution.
So if the old proxy of the standard essay is dead and the digital tripwires don't work, teachers are essentially left with a blank slate. They literally have to invent a new way to measure human thought.
Enter what Ava Silica calls the visibility principle.
Okay, tell us about the visibility principle.
The goal is to redesign the work itself so that learning becomes visible again. You stop asking, did a machine write this? And you start asking, can this student show me they actually understand this concept? You build assignments around the 3 things an AI simply does not possess: personal experience, local knowledge, and human judgment.
When I was going through the text, the geography teacher example really hammered this home for me.
That's a great example.
Yeah, this teacher had assigned the exact same coursework for 11 years. Describe the causes and effects of urbanization. It worked perfectly.
Until it didn't.
Right. Then the chatbots launched, and she received a stack of essays that were the best she had ever seen and utterly devoid of any individual thought. They told her absolutely nothing about her students' brains.
She could have bought detection software and started policing them, but instead she changed the friction of the assignment.
Yes. She asked them to walk a route through their own town. They had to physically photograph 3 places where urbanization was actively changing their local landscape, explain what was happening in their own words, and then predict what that specific high street would look like in 20 years.
It's brilliant.
So, what does this all mean for you as a learner? It means the student can absolutely still use the chatbot. They can ask it to explain the economic theories of urbanization or help structure their paragraphs, but the AI cannot walk down the high street.
Cannot take those photos. He doesn't know the local community.
Exactly.
You are forcing the student to apply abstract knowledge to a tangible, local reality. This introduces the new scarcity in the classroom.
What do you mean by new scarcity?
Well, facts, dates, and generic summaries used to be valuable because they took effort to compile. Today, they are free and instantaneous. Their value has collapsed to near zero.
Right.
The new premium is entirely on judgment. It's the ability to choose a perspective, defend a controversial opinion, or make a prediction under uncertainty.
Oh, I see.
A machine can effortlessly summarize the French Revolution. Yeah. But ask a student, which cause of the revolution do you think mattered most, and how would you rebut a classmate who argues for a different cause? They have to commit. They have to exercise human judgment.
I hear that, but let me push back on the practical reality of teenagers for a second.
Please do.
Even if you redesign the assignment to require local photos and personal opinions, a clever student will just upload those photos to the AI, feed it a few bullet points about their opinion, and have the machine write the entire 2,000-word analysis.
Oh, without a doubt.
They submit it, and we are right back to the muddy trainers problem. They didn't run the race.
They absolutely could do that, which is why the redesigned assignment is only the first half of the solution.
Okay.
The second half is what the author considers the absolute spine of the modern classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tool that is entirely unfakeable, the 5-minute oral defense.
I have to admit, it sounds incredibly intense, like a university viva, but on a Tuesday morning for a 14-year-old?
It does sound intimidating, but it is far less terrifying than it sounds. It is simply a brief, live, face-to-face conversation between the teacher and the student about the work they just submitted. The book draws a brilliant distinction here to show why this works. Imagine two students, let's call them the AI student and the delegation student, both hands in a highly polished essay arguing that governments have a moral necessity to intervene in historical famines.
A tough topic.
Very. On paper, both essays look identical. You cannot tell who did the actual cognitive work.
But the AI student treated the chatbot like a sparring partner. She argued with it, used it to test her premises, had it draft awkward sections, but she engaged in the cognitive struggle. She actually learned the material.
Exactly.
Whereas the delegation student, on the other hand, just pasted the prompt into the machine, copied the output into a document, barely proofread it, and hit submit.
Right. Now, the teacher sits down with them individually for a 5-minute chat. The teacher looks at the AI student and asks, you made a strong point in paragraph 2, but what is the strongest argument against your own position?
And she knows the answer.
The student answers immediately. She says, well, intervening sets a precedent that might remove the pressure for long-term economic reform, but I ultimately decided you cannot trade a certain deft today for a theoretical improvement tomorrow. She owns that knowledge.
Wow. And then the teacher brings in the delegation student who hasn't engaged with the text at all. The teacher asks the exact same question, and the student just freezes.
Totally freezes.
He stammers out, some people disagreed with the economic stuff, and the teacher gently prods, okay, tell me about the economic stuff in your own words. And the student says, I'd have to look back at the essay. The entire facade collapses on the second question.
It's immediate. Mm-hmm. The beauty of the oral defense is that it doesn't try to detect AI text. It renders AI text irrelevant. It tests the only thing that actually matters in education, which is human understanding.
For those of you listening, I want you to think about your own corporate job or your reading habits for a second. The illusion of competence is everywhere. You read a dense 40-page report before a meeting or a really smart article online, and you feel like you know it.
We all do it.
But if your boss pulled you aside and asked you to defend the core premise of that report for 5 minutes unscripted, could you? It's a terrifyingly high bar for true comprehension.
It is a high bar.
But a clever teenager might try to game this too. If I'm a student who delegated the whole essay to AI, I would just ask the AI to generate a list of likely questions the teacher might ask, and I'd memorize the answers.
That is a very real possibility, which is why the teacher's questioning technique is so crucial. You never ask definition questions that can be rehearsed. You ask questions that test the edges of their thinking.
Right.
You introduce a hypothetical. If I change this one demographic fact in your third paragraph, how does your conclusion shift? A rehearsed, memorized answer might survive the opening question, but it shatters on an unpredictable pivot.
Because memorization cannot adapt to a new variable, only genuine understanding can do that.
Spot on.
I can hear the collective groan of teachers listening right now, though, regarding the sheer logistics of this.
The time factor.
Yeah, a secondary school teacher might see 150 kids a day across 5 different classes.
Mm-hmm.
They literally do not have the physical time in the universe to conduct a 5-minute interview with every single student for every single assignment. It's mathematically impossible.
It is, which raises a vital point about classroom culture. Silica's framework doesn't demand that you interview everyone.
Oh, it doesn't?
No. The solution is sampling. You pull 3 or 4 students aside during quiet, independent work time. It can take 90 seconds to 5 minutes each. Because no one in the room knows who will be selected to defend their work that day, it creates a culture of explanation.
Ah, the psychological deterrent. They expect that they might have to sit in the hot seat.
Yes.
So even if they use the machine to generate the draft, they suddenly have a vested interest in reading it, interrogating it, and making absolutely sure they understand the arguments before they walk through the classroom door.
You are changing their behavior before the homework is even submitted.
You are closing the knowledge gap before it opens. And once you secure that assessment through the oral defense, once you know they actually understand the material, the entire atmosphere of the room shifts. The defensive posture drops.
You no longer have to fear the technology.
We finally get to go on the attack. We stop treating it like a glorified cheat sheet and start using it as an unparalleled learning tool, the ultimate tutor.
Exactly. Educational research has shown for decades that one-to-one tutoring is the single most effective way to learn. But it was completely unscalable. We could never afford to give every child on Earth a personal tutor.
And suddenly, we can.
We can. But unlocking that potential relies heavily on what the book calls prompt literacy. The machine will give you exactly what you ask for, so how you ask determines whether you learn or whether you stagnate.
The distinction between bad and good prompting is so stark. A bad prompt is what we instinctively do. Write a paragraph on why the Treaty of Versailles caused resentment in Germany. The machine does the thinking, hands you the paragraph, and your brain does 0 reps. But a good prompt completely changes the dynamic.
Give us an example of a good prompt.
A good prompt is, I think the Treaty of Versailles caused resentment primarily because of the heavy financial reparations. Act as a demanding history professor and ask me 3 questions, one at a time, to test whether I truly understand this.
It turns the machine from a vending machine of answers into a Socratic teacher. It becomes an intellectual sparring partner that refuses to give you the easy way out.
That is so powerful.
You could even tell it to play devil's advocate. If a student can hold their ground against the strongest counter-argument a machine can generate, they possess an incredibly robust level of knowledge.
But there is an elephant in the room with these chatbots. They hallucinate.
Ah, yes.
They make things up with terrifying confidence. And there is a story I discovered in the text regarding this that completely blew my mind. The hallucination lesson.
It is an absolute masterclass in modern pedagogy.
Yeah.
The instinct is to view these hallucinations as a fatal flaw, something to hide from students so they don't get confused.
Yeah.
But a brilliant teacher turns the flaw into the curriculum itself.
This teacher wanted to demonstrate historical research. She hooks her laptop up to the projector and asks the AI for 3 primary sources on a specific historical event. The chatbot spits out 3 perfect-looking sources.
They always look perfect.
Titles, academic authors, journal names, publication dates, even page numbers. It looked immaculate.
Yeah.
But she has a student log into the university library database to pull up the first paper. It doesn't exist.
Not there.
They checked the second. Nothing. The third, completely fabricated. The machine had confidently invented all of them out of thin air just to please the user.
Imagine the silence in that room. The students realized, viscerally, that the machine will lie to them beautifully.
Yeah.
The teacher abandoned her planned lesson for the day. She spent the rest of the hour teaching them that their primary responsibility in the modern world is to catch the machine lying.
Think about the implications for adult life. We are graduating these kids into a digital ecosystem that is going to be flooded, absolutely saturated with confident, beautifully formatted, machine-generated claims.
Everywhere they look.
Teaching them that visceral skepticism, that innate refusal to take a confident answer on trust, is the exact critical thinking skill they need to survive. If they blindly trust the output, they will be endlessly manipulated by it.
The hallucination is the lesson. Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of Ava Silica's argument. If you step back and look at this entire paradigm shift, AI is not replacing teachers. That is the great misplaced fear.
Right.
But it stems from a profound misunderstanding of what a teacher actually does.
Well, yeah, if teaching was simply about the transmission of information from a textbook into a brain, the internet would have replaced teachers 25 years ago. Wikipedia would have made schools obsolete.
AI is burning off the mechanical busywork. It is removing the least valuable, most soul-crushing part of the profession, grading stacks of generic, interchangeable essays late on a Sunday night.
Thank goodness for that.
And by doing so, It is returning teachers to the absolute core of their craft.
Building human relationships, cultivating judgment, acting as a mirror to help a young person understand themselves as a learner. A machine cannot look at a 14-year-old, read the subtle flicker of confusion in their eyes, and know exactly what specific personal analogy they need to hear to make a concept click.
A machine doesn't care if the student succeeds.
The role elevates. The teacher becomes a coach, a curator of attention, and a builder of character. And frankly, that job is fundamentally harder, vastly more human, and far more interesting than just processing paperwork.
It is such an incredibly hopeful message.
It really is. And if you want to dive deeper into all the practical templates, the subject-specific guides, and the school policy frameworks we didn't even have time to touch on today, you absolutely need to read this book. A quick reminder for you listening, you can pre-order the AI Classroom Survival Guide by Ava Silica right now. It is out worldwide on July 15th, and you can get it in ebook or paperback over at rondanini.com. It will completely change how you view the future of education.
It really will. But before we finish our deep dive into the source material today, there's a lingering thought from the book's epilogue that I want to leave you with. We have spent this entire discussion talking about methods, assignments, and tools. But the author poses a final question that transcends the classroom.
What is the question?
As these tools become even more frictionless and even more powerful, the greatest danger isn't that a teenager will use them to cheat on a history essay. The greatest danger is that we will all voluntarily surrender the productive struggle of learning altogether. Because learning is supposed to be hard. The friction, the frustration, the moments of feeling completely stuck to it, that is where the cognitive growth actually happens.
We run the risk of outsourcing our own intellectual development. If we let the machine do all the heavy lifting, we hollow out our own minds.
We do. So the question we must carry forward isn't how we block the technology. The question is, as our machines become brilliantly capable, how do we ensure that human minds do not become entirely hollow? How do we fiercely protect the struggle that makes us who we are?
That is a terrifying but necessary question, and it is going to stick with me for a long time. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We'll see you next time.